So, I want to talk about Beau is Afraid. Now, I'm not sure where I stand when it comes to this movie yet. Overall, I think that it was really good. I think that it's worth a watch in theaters. Um, and I would maybe rank it in the middle of Ari Aster's other things, so in between Hereditary and Midsummer. Those are just my initial thoughts on it. Um, I just don't think it's really my cup of tea. There were aspects of it I loved, but I'm not much into non-linear storytelling, and I'm into plotless movies. I'm into those. I love M. Night Shyamalan movies, if that tells you anything. I guess his kind of plots, not really. Um, I'm fine with a movie that's just about people talking, you know? Um, it's not that. It just, something about it wasn't really hitting home for me the same way that his other movies have, especially Hereditary. But that isn't discredit to this movie. That just means that it wasn't what I was kind of looking for in an Ari Aster movie. So I've divided things into subsections, and I will be putting in title cards for each one. But I just thought that I should preface this and say that this is going to be a review with really minor spoilers. If you don't want any sort of spoilers, then click off and come back. The spoilers I will give are not even really going to make sense until you've seen the movie, so I think you'll forget a lot of them if you want to stick around. However, I think that this is much better suited for someone who just came out of the movie, is in kind of a similar boat to me, and wants to unpack aspects of the movie with me. So some general notes just about the movie as a whole that I wanted to get off, that I wanted to talk about right off the bat. I can't speak right now. I'm like dead. The movie's like 3 hours long, and I got back and I just sat on it for a little bit to record this. So it's a dark comedy for sure, which is what I'd heard about it before going in. It's pretty much one of the only things I did know is that it is much more comedic than his other movies, but it's still ultimately kind of like a thriller horror. It's still dark, you know. I don't think it can be characterized, but it's definitely a dark comedy. An example of that is there's a moment of chaos, and like all this crazy stuff is happening, and like crazy violence, and a guy is just like washing dishes during it, like really calmly, and it's very wholesome. And that's something that made me laugh. Actually, the entire theater was laughing like pretty much throughout the entire movie, so that's a good sign considering there were like maybe like 9 people in the theater total, and we were all like laugh out loud laughing at multiple points. This movie is full of Easter eggs and clever callbacks. There's lots of things to pick up on each watch, whether it's funny phrases, just like in little signs on the street, or a good example of a callback. There's a scene where 2 colors of paint are a big portion of the scene. Like the paint is very pivotal in that scene, and it's like a baby blue and a baby pink. And those colors come back later on, kind of unrelated, but it's those same colors being painted. So that's like a little callback. And there's tons of those, which I appreciate. These are some direct things that I wrote down while watching it, because if you guys don't know, when I make these reviews, I'm taking notes during the movie, so that I am able to do this for you guys. I said, quote, "God, this is so sad." Quote, "Bro, I'm so freaked out." Quote, "Not the open casket." Quote, "The goopery, the gag, OMG." And quote, in all caps, "What the fuck is that?" If you've seen the movie, you probably know what I'm referring to at all of those points. But the thing is, those points could also refer to multiple points in the movie, so if that tells you anything. I want to address the setting next. So the setting is like our world. It's definitely closer to reality. It's not like, you know, a sci-fi movie or something. It is in our reality, kind of. It's like our reality if you made it 10,000 times more stressful. And at first I thought, okay, well, maybe this is just what Beau is seeing, but there's much more evidence to the fact that this is actually just how his reality is. His neighborhood is like, I hate to compare it to another Joaquin Phoenix role, but it's like the Joker where he lives, but it makes that look incredible. Like, it makes Gotham look like a safe and cool place to live. So if that tells you anything about how horrible his living conditions are, then there you go. But there is a big portion of the movie that takes place in Beau's mind, whether it is dreams, kind of him having a realistic daydream, sort of like a coma dream. There's tons of different points where it is not in reality. Technical things. I could go through each technical aspect and talk about it, but I don't think that's necessary, really. We know the directing's right. I mean, it's Ari Aster. But these are some things that I particularly found great. Cinematography, as always, he's really good at that. I don't know who he gets. I don't know if it's the same person, but he's really good at finding good cinematographers. He's also incredible with color correcting. I'm not sure who's doing the color correcting for him either. It could be his cinematographer or whoever he hires. But great job picking him out, and great job to the color corrector. Especially his outside shots. Just Ari Aster's movies, the color, like, I feel like Midsummer actually is the only one where I'm not blown away by the color correcting. But really, like, the wood shots in Beau is Afraid and in Hereditary are just, like, incredible. There's also this play that goes on, and there's, like, this daydream sequence that starts taking place, and the set design, because it's, you know, it's not actually, it goes into, like, CGI and stop motion and stuff, but the fake play design is incredible. That sequence alone is, like, worth going and seeing it in theaters. Here's some funny phrases that I wrote down. These are just, like, again, Easter eggs I found to be particularly funny. On some food that he had, it said Hawaii of Ireland, like, describing the flavor palettes. On the news, birthday boy stab man. And then the newscaster said that he'd been identified as circumcised. There's a big emphasis. So that's something I'm going to get to in kind of like the themes portion. This movie is super heavy on phallic symbolism, and it's super heavy on birth in the womb, because the whole thing, over encompassing the main idea, the main point, is about, like, birth, like bringing in new life, that process, and also the child raising process. That's all, like, major points of this movie. Perfectly Safe for Men is a brand name. Death by Anal, Murder by Fuck. That was a band name, and I was like, that's actually a great band name. That's super funny. One of those, like, you know, pornographic stores. Sorry, there was a bug. One of those pornographic stores, you know, it would be like, pussy, blah, 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 blah. One of the things said pussy, frog, whistle, which is just killing me. And then one of the characters says, leave me a message if you ever want to see me again. Like, anyway, you know, it was their, like, voicemail. They were like, this is blah, blah, blah. Leave me a message if you ever want to see me again. It's like, Jesus. And they were not joking. Okay, now we're getting to even more spoiler territory, but I, again, don't really think that you'll even realize it's a spoiler until you're watching it and it occurs. I don't think it's something that you'll be able to parse out from what I'm saying. The dad's portrait has a blurred face. Beau has the same birthday as me, which is fun, 8/26. I love that. Because he's like filling out his, maybe it's not his birth date. I think I just realized it's the card expiration date for his credit card. I think that is August of the year 2026. That stinks. I was hoping he had the same birthday as me. But either way, it's fun for me. Ari Aster has given some real theater kid energy in this one. And that was kind of confirmed to me in that there's some characters in the background at one point that are playing Zip Zap Zop, which, if you were ever a theater kid at any point, you know what I'm talking about. He's given a shirt that has his name already embroidered in the pocket, and that was just something that kind of freaked me out. there is a cameo, and I don't want to tell you who it is. I wrote down who it is, but I'm just now thinking I actually don't want to tell you. But it's a cameo that you're not expecting, and it's super, super subtle. But we all laughed in the audience. We were just like, what? There is a play that I mentioned, and it tells the story thus far through like symbolism and such. In the play, the sons all look different because there's the implication that they actually aren't related. It's part of this dream sequence that isn't thought out and it contains plot holes. And actually, when a plot hole is discovered by Beau's consciousness, the dream sequence immediately ends. Like it cuts him out and pulls him back into reality. At the very beginning, the therapist writes one word on the notepad, and it's guilty. And that is very important if you've seen the rest of the movie. Excuse me. There's an actual lute being played. Like, you know, the movie, there's background music and stuff. And at one point, the sound of a lute is being played. And then it cuts to a different shot, and you see that there's like a lute player who's like actually playing it. It's not just like it's within the context of the movie, and it's very funny. Again, another thing that makes sense by the end of the movie is one of the characters telling him, don't implicate yourself, and that makes more sense at the end of the movie. And then something I also noticed is that there's a big emphasis on water. I don't know if I've just been tuned to notice a big emphasis on water because I watch a lot of M. Night Shyamalan, and there's like always a big emphasis on water in his stuff. And I can't really figure out what the common theme about the water is in this narrative specifically, but there is a lot of water. A lot. Like a lot. There's him needing to get water. There's in a dream sequence being separated by water. There's him taking a bath as a kid, and that's an important part. There's him being on a cruise. There's someone drowning. There's a fight in a bathtub. There's going out on the water in a boat. There's like, I could go on and on and on. Water is a big symbol in this movie. It is constant. There's constantly big stuff happening with water. Water is very important. There's overflowing water. There's all this stuff. I need someone to figure out what the water symbolizes. Like, what is the common thread between all these moments? Because there's so much. It has to be super intentional. I have one theory I want to pull out, but I think I want to save that till the end because it's pretty spoilery. Some things that freaked me out on a horror standpoint. It gave me the same feeling as Mother, if you've seen the movie Mother with Jennifer Lawrence. It gave me that same feeling of anxiety at multiple points. It's a very panic-inducing movie. There was a guy at one point who was too freaking tall, and that is what always gets me in horror movies. I don't care what horror movie it is. Like, if you guys have seen It Follows, you know what I'm talking about. There's this one guy that's like too tall. That is so scary to me. Guys who are unnaturally tall in horror movies just like walking, like, I'm terrified. It's over for me. There's some like weird incest shit, and it wasn't like confirmed, but there were just some weird incesty vibes going on. And there's also the use of these face masks that give like this uncanny valley feeling, because they're almost human-based face masks, but they're like too blank. Like, the features aren't defined enough. Some similarities to past Aster movies. No head. not no head, the Divine. People being decapitated. There being no heads. The idea of first the smell of something wrong, knowing something's wrong because of the smell first. That first there's the smell of something wrong. There's a quote from Hereditary. The description of a grim image. We see grim images, but there's also lots that we don't see that are just kind of talked about. He loves family members dying in a horrific way. He loves people on ceilings. He loves obscure deaths that like rarely ever happening a lot. He loves moms mourning their kids. He loves crashing through windows. He loves attic windows. He loves cults. He loves creepy smiles during the climaxes of the movie. He loves problems that are hereditary being passed down. Aster, from every single thing I've seen, has a very unhealthy relationship with his family, it seems, because he always emphasizes dysfunctional family units. Not to pry into his own thing, maybe that's just a subject that fascinates him, but that's like the core of all Aster stuff. He loves obscured mirror. Like, there's an obscured mirror that's looking at a dead body because the person who's looking at the mirror is too afraid to look at the dead body directly. There's a horrifying discovery in the attic. Someone falls from a cliff and smacks into a rock. There's a lot of similarities to his other movies. There's also some similarities to movies that he did not direct. There's some kind of misery-like things, like Stephen King's Misery. There's some Twilight-type acting at times. I don't mean, like, the bad Twilight acting. I mean, like, the good. But that style of acting is present in some of the characters. And there's also sort of an inspiration, in my opinion, from the movie Sorry to Bother You. Now I want to get into the theme. So we've talked about, like, mothers and sons. The mother, the matriarch, that's ultimately the main point of this. It kind of follows Hereditary in that way, where there's a level of narcissism from the mother, not as much in Hereditary, more in this, but the mother is a very pivotal figure. The idea of birth to death, using nonlinear telling for that's really prevalent in this. There's a super subtle kind of anti-cop thing going on through a few scenes. A big theme is guilt. Feelings of guilt that are deserved, feelings of guilt that are not deserved, feelings of guilt that are being put upon you by other people when you shouldn't be feeling guilty about it. So there's a lot to do with mental illnesses. Like, there's a lot of he's doing a lot here, and it could be interpreted a lot of ways. It could be interpreted as, the title alone kind of tells you everything you need to know in that area. It really starts to lead you in the right direction, which is why I'm ultimately glad that he changed the title of this movie to Beau is Afraid. It could be Beau has a severe anxiety disorder, either learned or he was born with it, like it's a chemical imbalance. But it could be that Beau has really severe anxiety, and the movie is kind of showing us and making us feel what it feels like to have anxiety, severe anxiety. And as someone with severe anxiety, let me tell you, watching this movie and having it do that while you are also anxious is a mind fuck. It's a lot. It's very panic inducing. But I like it when movies make me feel a certain way. I just know that, like, this is not a movie that you want to watch when you're already stressed out. There's a lot of, at one point he makes you feel like what it feels like to have a bad trip. At one point he makes you feel what it feels like to have anxiety, especially social anxiety, and having peer pressure applied to you. Basically, he's amplifying all these things within the context of the movie, so you're seeing kind of how insane it is to be in that mindset. It seems as intense as the movie's making it, even though in reality it is not quite that intense. There's also the possibility that Beau is an autist, like a severely autistic character. Severely, I say. There's a spectrum. There's no, like, really autistic, really not autistic. There just is. You just fall in different places. It's like a big circle, right? Non-linear thing. So he could be anywhere on that spectrum, but he definitely shows signs of being neurodivergent. And so, his rationale, it's like showing you his rationale and how other people are misconstruing that. So Beau always has the best intentions. He's very clearly a good guy. But his actions can also, because he's trying to appease everyone, he ends up hurting a lot of people who think that he is trying to get away from things or doesn't care about them. So we're kind of seeing how when everything is a challenge and you don't know, you can't understand how what you're doing is being construed as horrible, and other people can't understand how your rationale for doing the things that you're doing, so they assume the worst in you. When really he's just trying to figure out which decision is the right one. He wants people to make that choice for him because he's worried he'll make the wrong choice. And people think he's not taking accountability, he doesn't care, when that just isn't the truth. But ultimately, I think that those are all really valid, possibilities for what Ari Aster is trying to get across. And I think that those are also ones that you could take away. But I think ultimately what the movie is trying to say, just tying in everything, is it's trying to show you how being raised by a narcissist, either a mother or father, in this case it's a mother, how being raised by a narcissist feels, and also how it affects a child's growth and their personality and their concerns and their anxiety. Because I don't think that Beau was always this way. It was something that was developed from growing up with a severe narcissist. He's scared to voice his opinions. He's scared to act out of line. He's worried about making the wrong decision and being yelled at. He's worried about people not liking him. These are all like signs of growing up with someone who, who growing up as someone with a narcissistic parent. And it's, it's very obvious in the way that he acts through that, and that would connect kind of everything. We literally start the movie with a birth and we end with a death. And so we're seeing in a nonlinear way throughout the story how he was raised, everything essentially that got him to the point of his death. But yeah, now my theory, since we're at the very end, this is really quick. I just want to say I have a theory that the mom hired Elaine because, he keeps bringing up that, he finds out that Elaine was hired by his mom, and he keeps bringing that up, and it's a point that's never resolved. And there's kind of the implication, in my opinion, from what I was seeing, is that the mom hired Elaine as a child to say, wait for me, so that he would never have sex, so that, one, she could control him, and two, someone would never die, because we find out that when he has sex with someone, they die. And so I think that the mom hired Elaine, and this is further supported by the fact that, I think her name's Elaine. If I'm saying the name wrong, the one with the E name. If it's not Elaine, then I'm sorry. But it's further supported by when he's walking and he's seeing all these photos of him as a child model for his mom's company. There's one other family in it, and it appears to be Elaine and the mother figure that we saw taking her off of the yacht. I think that whole thing was a set up scheme by his mother to essentially scar him and keep him waiting for this girl for the rest of his life. Also, how did the girl get into the room? If the mother didn't leave her key card or something, how would she have gone into the yacht room? She doesn't have a key. She can't just burst in the middle of the night. So I think that those are very intentional things. And Ari Aster loves having everything be... Oh, that's another thing, which I didn't want to give away until this now, when you don't care about spoilers. Another comparable movie is The Truman Show. This whole thing is a fucking Truman Show mindfuck, and Ari Aster loves doing that, having everything be orchestrated for a long time. That's like a running theme in all of his movies. That there are so many people in your life that are in on this big conspiracy. It's basically the entire thing's a big conspiracy. Ari Aster loves that crap. And I honestly do too. So, works for me. But yeah, that's everything. Obviously, from what I've said, thumbs up. However, it wasn't everything I wanted it to be. I just think that it was sloppy at times. But it was so crazy and so worth it. And it was also really worth it seeing in theaters. So go out and see it now. I know they're not playing it at every theater. But because it is his third movie and all of his other ones have done well, it is playing at more theaters. Each one of his movies ends up playing at more theaters. So go and check, and I'm sure it'll be playing within a 30-minute distance to you. So yeah, those are my feelings. A lot of my feelings on Beau is Afraid.